facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages we're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter @Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today. Another busy end of the week and getting into, of course, the start of this week. A lot of development news we'll be getting into here. A lot of stuff going on with, a lot of stuff with development here, but also a lot of stuff going on with, let's just call them writ large, legal issues, whether we're talking about international, state, local, there's a whole bunch of them. And even what's going on with some of the campaigns going around the area. But two major things that are really sticking out today that we'll definitely be getting into and getting a lot of coverage by some of the major local reporting concerns, including, of course, our news partners over there at KFOX 14. And they are continuing apace here. Of course, we do have Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke pausing his campaign while recovering from bacterial infection here. Probably mentioned that here. More on the busing coming from our area of migrants to other cities, including New York City. The second bus load apparently leaving our area as of recently here, as we have Ida Beza Gardner joining us over on the social media. Again, because you can find us Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch there. But also what's going on with the processing happening here with TDEM, if I think I'm saying that right here, Texas Department of Emergency Management, and even National Guard stepping in to help with processing in the area. Very much, if you were hearing what we were talking about last week, talking about there being those increased responses being required in our area. Yeah, the past is prelude, definitely in this case here. But then also some other things going on with further case dismissals being sought by the local public defender's office due to what they're calling a lack of action happening on the part of the district attorney's office here. So a lot to delve into here today. So hope you all had a wonderful weekend. It was restful-ish here. I hope that if you all went out to the UTEP game over the weekend that you actually stayed there, because the amount of people that go out to these kind of things and then leave as soon as it goes bad here. I'm not saying that we've ever been not accused of being fair weather fans out here in the borderland, but it's one thing to make it such a stark example here. I don't know if we actually hit the sellout or not. We'll have to check in with some of our other shows, including, of course, over on Fox Sports 1380, our sister station there with the Tipping Point with Mike Tipton. But I guess let's say, the result a little bit disappointing here. Not really going well for either of the major borderland teams here. I was more focused because we had it on Fox Sports 1380, the actual NMSU home opener that didn't quite work out, though it does include the dubious honor of having scored the first safety of these college football seasons. So they got that going for them, which is nice. If you're into that kind of thing here. Anyway, we're not becoming a sports station by any means. Don't worry. We're definitely going to be continuing on with it, because we're definitely continuing on with our commentary and all the comments you all have coming in on the many different aspects, with Edgar Ortiz on board with us as well. And John Brazelton saying Beto must be hanging around with the wrong crowd after his campaign stops. Maybe his wife will set him straight in El Paso here. I'm not quite sure what kind of bacterial infection you're insinuating here, but of course, wish him and anyone else involved in such politics at any level a speedy recovery, because if it just ends up being it didn't work out because of some other factor besides like an actual political defeat, that's kind of unsatisfying to me. I don't know about y'all, but never want it to be the other team lost because their bus crashed or their lead slugger had a tummy ache or something like that. It's unsatisfying at the very least, and doesn't really settle any of the issues, is one of the bigger points that comes out for me from that. So again, if you got some schadenfreude, just make sure that doesn't go around comes around, is all I'm saying there when you're considering what you're putting out there into the world here. But again, getting into some of those major local issues, And again, from our news partners over there at KFOX 14, Texas Division, so I was close on the acronym there. Texas Division of Emergency Management is arrived in El Paso in order to progress migrants. Have some photos coming from the Opportunity Center for the Homeless that has been used as one of El Paso's largest, if not the largest, homeless shelter in the region, using the facility in order to continue with the, again, initial processing. Now, we've had a lot of discussion on the many different aspects that come out of all of that. It's not a simple process, would be the simple-ish answer to that question here. But we've got, again, pictures showing National Guard troops and other processors, again, from the civilian departments mentioned there. Again, TDEM. I don't know. In any case, they're in the area, and they've been processing migrants, and also caseworkers at the Opportunity Center have been a part of it, according to the deputy director of the Opportunity Center for the Homeless, John Martin. And they're going to have some of these groups may have been supposedly going to be going on Monday here to Chicago. Now, this, of course, comes after there's been kind of late last week, almost not quite during our show last week, it came out that there was a bin busing coming from El Paso, sending to other cities, including New York City, and then again, this potentially one for Chicago. But John Martin there at the Opportunity Center saying that there was not enough migrants being processed through to send a bus as of Monday here. According to the city of El Paso, issuing a statement, the El Paso City Deputy Manager, Mario D'Agostino, giving the following statement, quote, "The issue remains a humanitarian concern for the city of El Paso and the Office of Emergency Management due to the increasing number of migrants passing through the region, limited federal and local shelter capacities, and increasing numbers of migrants that are not sponsored or have means to travel. With a goal to provide for the safety of the migrants from the elements and to preserve the community's transitory hospitality shelter capacities so they may continue to serve our homeless community." Going on further to say that the Office of Emergency Management has sponsored and provided transportation services for migrants out of El Paso, which is reimbursable through FEMA. OEM has sponsored charter buses to include 4 transports to New York City, the preferred destination for those without any means to travel. Migrants are provided care packages, and OEM coordinates with officials to receive them. John Brazelton, again, looking at that schadenfreude there a little bit here, saying, got a big laugh when the first load from El Paso went to New York City. The El Paso Democrats must be going crazy. Again, John saying that over on our social media, and RJ over on the YouTube specifically saying, let's hope it's not monkeypox, could go bad with the wife for Beto. Okay, I'm just going to say this about the monkeypox thing. A lot of comments coming out about it here, but the reason I have a level of concern of it here, being in a incredibly monogamous relationship for the better part of my life here at this point, and not exactly a wandering eye syndrome coming up here, is that it can be even on bed sheets. Yes, I know there's the old got it from a toilet seat thing, but let's just say, given all the blacklight tests that I've seen happen in hotel rooms previously, you bet your butt I'm probably going to do the same thing myself here. So as much as there are implications of monkeypox that I think you're getting at there, let's just say I have a level of concern that comes regardless of any extracurriculars you're taking part in, besides just like sleeping in a hotel room. Who hasn't done that in their life here? If you're doing other things, that's on you. But if it can happen to anyone, that's where I definitely start getting concerned here. In any case, that's going to take us through more or less this next break right now. This is not, of course, the only thing going on again with migrant processing in our area. We're going to get more into that and a whole lot more into some of the legal cases also featuring in our area. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this first break of the hour, but you know you're locked in for both hours here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. More to come, more discussion about the things affecting us here in the borderland, including, again, some of those legal cases, the movement happening there, the response that y'all been talking about, and even some of that development news. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
All lanes are still closed on Gateway Boulevard westbound at Eastlake from an earlier crash involving 2 semis and several vehicles. Reports of a vehicle blocking the right lane, I-10 eastbound at Schuster Avenue. Another accident reported Trans Mountain eastbound at Dyer. And a crash Pebble Hills westbound at George Dieter Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We reached the tipping point this week. Big news regarding global money and energy just came out, and you better get ready. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. So listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Hey, Sean Hannity here from my dear friends at Lone Star Transfer. I love these folks. You know, with all of us traveling so differently these days, timeshares, they're kind of becoming a thing of the past. Now, if you're stuck in one, you don't have to be. Our friends at Lone Star Transfer, they can help you. Now, with skyrocketing assessments and maintenance fees, still owning a timeshare is very risky. And for over a decade, Lone Star Transfer, they have successfully helped thousands and thousands of owners legally, permanently get out of their burdensome timeshare. They have an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau. Now, Lone Star Transfer is a family-owned company. They have earned their reputation for delivering first-class customer service. They're going to guarantee the release of all liability to your timeshare in writing and in a specific time frame. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation, 833-594-0075. That's 833-594-0075, or online at lonestartransfer.com.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Why should you volunteer with Meals on Wheels?
I never thought that 5 minutes could make so much difference in the lives of 2 people, but it has.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk here. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today, a lot of things impacting us here in the borderland, including a lot of those changes. Again, it's been kind of, I'm not going to say creeping up, but the sense of serious issues coming to the forefront here. I mean, honestly, ever since the end of Title 42, or the attempted end of it anyway, still, for the most part, seeming to be in place. Oh, okay, even that has a giant asterisk by it, if I'm saying it that way. It is in existence, not necessarily being 100% applied. Not that it, again, ever really was. Again, the asterisks just pile on top of each other the more I'm giving the caveats here. In any case, it's about the only remaining thing still. It's what we're coming down to, specifically with the end of the Migrant Protection Protocols, MPP, and with the processing, well, the other side of it, Title 8, I believe, is the correct one, if I'm not mistaken, that the kind of regular proceedings or removals here, that process is now, well, what we're seeing is such as like the Opportunity Center for the Homeless being used as a temporary facility to do that and do the processing, and then up to 4 loads, bus loads being moved out of the area now into cities such as New York and potentially Chicago, though, again, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, that one has not happened yet, again, according also to the actual administrators there over at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless. Eric von Holstein Rathlow, again, I'm not saying you're not entitled to Schadenfreude. I'm just saying, watch it and see if it doesn't come back around on you. That's just my sense of life anyway. Eric's there saying the mayors of New York City and DC are complaining about the illegal immigrants overwhelming their support services. They sound like xenophobic nationalists. I thought NYC and DC were sanctuary cities. See, that's that slight sense of Schadenfreude I'm detecting there. But as much as I can say, and that there have been the concerns, the whole political pawn potential with the way that, again, is part of Operation Lone Star and that whole donation drive being done by the government of Texas. Functionally, there's not necessarily a lot of difference between what El Paso has done and that, even if some of the maybe stated purposes are slightly different. There is the way I'm going to choose to say that at this moment in time, again, between the city and the state and how they are doing this. But also, so I think we're going to see quite a lot of issues here in our region. I mean, some of the things that have been coming out from a variety of our local elected officials, the county judge, Ricardo Samaniego, most recently and most vocally on it anyway, as we did talk about on Friday, saying that, there are estimates in the it's hard to pin down something exactly because given that NPP had been on hold essentially and new enrollment not really happening for the most part, what I've been hearing anyway, getting an actual number of those waiting in, say, even just Ciudad Juarez has been a difficult task. Know the resources have been strained there for ever since essentially the entire span of the existence of that program across administration. So if that essentially is now breaking on this side of the border or not, it remains to be seen, but the processing levels have definitely gone up. We've gone from, high hundreds to low thousands to middle thousands so far here. And so these resources are going to continue to be strained here. So that busing specifically, a very interesting situation, but again, very similar, at least in actual implementation, to what has been done with well, okay, let me give you a little bit of perspective on what has previously happened to El Paso. So in previous eras of our immigration situation, I got the chance to go out to several of our local shelters and different areas, particularly the ones that were popped up in the unaccompanied minor crisis that was primarily happening in South Texas, like, Laredo, McAllen, those kind of areas, is what came to me and what I got the chance to see firsthand, what the response was here locally. And you may be thinking, why was that having an impact here locally? Because sure, there was a lot of unaccompanied minors. The prevailing theory, essentially both, I think from cartels and others at the time, was that, well, individual minors, they'll get through, they'll have an easier time of it. So we kept seeing that happening. Just one of the many changes and vagaries of the immigration situation we've seen over these years. But that was not the only amount or types of groups and people coming through there. There were also family groups and individuals, adults. So what was happening there, due to the overwhelmed resources down in that sector, is that they were sometimes busing, sometimes flying some of those family groups, particularly to our area, in order to then be processed through our less, at that point in time, overwhelmed facilities here. But still, the relationship that did and still to a large extent exists at that point in time is that those that are being released on recognizance, essentially what is happening there, but not exactly the legal term in this case, because again, there's many different technical legal definitions going on here, including, among other things, these are not courts. These are executive branch things. Even though they call them judges and call them courts, they are not under the judicial branch, and so therefore do not have exactly the same procedures going into them. If you ever sat in one, it would become readily apparent. Let's just put it that way. But within the shelters itself here, there was a lot of focus on kind of transitory. And honestly, I can see how this kind of a busing is essentially an offshoot of that. One of the key points of that statement that we read there of what exactly, again, El Paso Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino saying that that OEM has sponsored and provide transportation services for migrants out of El Paso and has sponsored charter buses to preferred destination for those without any means to travel. And you may think like, okay, well, doesn't that involve most of them if a lot of the essential nest egg is not the right term, but that's what I can come up with at the moment here in order to get to where they are here. Not exactly maybe a lot of money there, but what previously was the circumstance is that even with there being a lot of shelters being set up and even temporary ones popped up to deal with the increased demand back at that point, we're talking like 2014, 2015, that I was really directly looking at these kind of things. They would essentially then connect them with either sponsors to an extent, but family members, people in other parts of the country that they would then go to while awaiting their essentially proceeding of that case as it was. And so there was a lot of, the longest stay at those points in those temporary shelters here was a week or two. Honestly, at most were out within a day or two, or maybe a little bit longer. So the difference here is not maybe that extreme, but the fact that we're talking about there being enough to be busloads of those without any other means or a connection to those other sponsors or family members in other areas is somewhat of a significant change, if a bit buried in there, at least to my reading and my understanding of the way these situations have evolved in our area. And RJ bringing up some implications of child sex trafficking coming and being involved with this as well. That's one of the, again, I was talking about 2014, 2015 there, but as this has continued to change and evolve, we're better part of a decade later now. God, I feel older just thinking about that. But seriously, the way this has continued to change, and therefore the response has continued to change here, I'm honestly not going to place much blame. I know that there's been a lot of Texas Tribune here. Let me just put the article title up here, the one coming out, technically quoting the El Paso Matters article on this here. El Paso joins Governor Greg Abbott in busing migrants to New York City. So more or less explicitly kind of linking those efforts and taking the similar kind of, I don't know, motivations under them and putting them under the same umbrella there. But I'm honestly not going to call it that, because this is not too far out of line with what has essentially been the nonprofit, so not necessarily official response, but more or less the standard response that have been happening in this area. Because, and I will say that this kind of shocked me when I first encountered how this whole system, at least locally, works back in about 2012, 2013, of the fact that anyone coming here to be processed, I thought it was a return policy on its own, but I was not too much involved in some of this reporting at that point, because essentially there has been this handshake relationship between, at that point, federal officials directly, ICE, INS in previous eras, but of course ICE, CBP, and of course the DHS agencies overall, with local nonprofit communities that I kind of refer to somewhat in apostrophe of the Enunciation House community, because it's not the only organization, but they all kind of revolve in that same way, and that's one of the central organizations, at least the way I've conceived of it anyway, or had experienced it directly myself here. And so the way that has worked is that anyone that wasn't, like, say, immediately removed, which wasn't technically that prevalent at that point in time, Title 42 was not a thing then, that's definitely for sure, is that they would be then dropped off to these shelters to allow basically the last mile solution, because there were various other situations and court decisions that have been an issue, particularly during the last administration, about length of time of detention. And I want to say that El Paso Matters and Texas Tribune have also done some reporting on what has been going on with lengths of detention in our area, which is a finer point, but has been a little bit lost here, not one we're going to focus on today necessarily. But it was that kind of last mile, that in between wherever they're going to be, and then the solutions here. And I will say, even with all of that here, the actual court cases taking place in our area at that point this was not a desirable area to come to. Not that it is necessarily now, but the actual amount of approvals. Well, let me put it this way. The amount of cases denied when it came to asylum in our area from the immigration court judges, again, technical definition there, was in the 90+%, meaning that if you were actually to get approved for asylum, if you were seeking it and doing so in a court's, again, immigration court source in our area, you had much less than a 10% chance of that actually working. So less than a 1 in 10, closer to a 1 in 100 shot of it actually working here, which is why this was not seen as a particularly desirable area to try to go through. There were different sectors that had somewhere, not exactly high, but I remember seeing at that point at about 2016 to 2018, maybe more close on the order of magnitude of a 70% denial. So giving you like a 20 to 30% chance. Again, not a lot better than here. But again, as this whole situation has continued to change, evolve, and shift here, we are seeing very different movements. And again, we didn't used to be one of the locuses of where people would just show up on their own. They're often brought here by U.S. officials in order to use the facilities here. But we'll see what happens next. I'm very concerned, continue to be, about what that next movement may be, including, of course, the stash houses, the bailouts, the ditching of cars in a variety of circumstances, and all those issues that we've continued to see. Hard to put an absolute increased number on it, but they seem to be coming up a lot more. At the very least, ICE, DHS, CBP, and all those organizations in general definitely doing a very, I think, pretty good job of both working to enforce it, but then also trying to make sure that the public is aware of them. Because, as much as we talked about the drunk drivers last week, I still can't believe we had last week 5 cop cars hit in as many days. But this is seriously concerning, and one thing we'll continue talking about here. Kathy Codry saying legal immigration matters. I don't think that anyone has ever particularly disputed that, but I feel like it has been a finer point that has been lost in a lot of this debate here. So that's going to lead us through that next break right now. Again, you are tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming out of this break, getting to some more of the other major topics here of the day, including, of course, some development news, and including some more changes coming to I-10. I mean, yay, but also we're going to have to go through this. And then also a lot more going on with some of those campaigns statewide, and yes, some put on hold. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Got a whole lot more to come. And we'll be opening up those phone lines a little bit later as we do here. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. State officials are in El Paso to help process migrants at the city's largest homeless shelter. About 50 migrants were processed at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless this afternoon. Members with the Texas Division of Emergency Management and members of the National Guard took over the processing of the migrants. Caseworkers there had been processing the migrants previously and, as of last week, had been busing migrants to other cities, including New York and Chicago. More people continue to have their criminal cases dismissed in El Paso County. This comes after El Paso DA Yvonne Rosales did not secure indictments in a timely manner. An additional 75 criminal cases were dismissed today at the county courthouse. Public Defender Kelly Childress said that they have filed 617 additional motions and are hoping to get all those this week. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
In the Low Valley, Gateway West at Eastlake, all westbound lanes on Gateway West remain closed from an earlier accident involving two semis. An injury accident Trans Mountain eastbound at Dyer. A crash with injuries North Mesa Street northbound at Festival Drive. Take Sunland Park Drive instead. And roadworks got the right lane closed on the 10 westbound from Schuster. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the Forewarn Weather Center, I'm CBS 4 meteorologist Kira Miner. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds as we start the new week with warmer than average temperatures as they climb into the middle 90s. Isolated showers and storms will be possible during the afternoon and evening, with scattered storms expected to the east of El Paso. Storm prospects will increase by Tuesday with temperatures in the 80s. For a full look at your forecast, head on over to our website at cbs4local.com.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blinds, shades, and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Visit Blindster now through September 8th to save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, "Best product I've ever used," and "Amazing, I love my Navage." That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
What does the political landscape look like heading into the midterm elections? We're going to ask Robert Kahali of the Trafalgar Group, who has a history of getting things right. Don't miss The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station.
City streets or small towns, everyone deserves a clean, green community. We are Keep America Beautiful, the nonprofit working to end littering, improve recycling, and beautify communities. Let's do beautiful things. Visit KAB.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We're up on these days, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. including, of course, a lot of commentary coming in there. Robbie Flores, hello to you as well. Rubber Ducky there, I think if that's the implication. Over on the Facebook, and then Kathy Codry and RJ over on the YouTube, particularly. Kathy also saying no one is above the law in regards to some of the subjects we've been discussing so far. But also Eric von Holstein Rathwell, Glenn Stewart, John Brazelton, Edgar Ortiz, Ida Beza Gardner, and more here. Glenn Stewart saying that Francis will likely get healthy just in time for his concession speech in November, referring there to, of course, Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke, and as he has paused his campaign for the moment here as he is recovering from a bacterial infection, returning here to El Paso after going to a hospital in San Antonio there. So, yeah, pausing and postponing. So I don't know if I get some debate about your exact timeline there. But at the very least, yeah, would much prefer it to be an actual conclusion to the race as opposed to anyone dropping out, because that just leaves, not that there's not going to be sour grapes. It leaves a lot more unfinished and undone, and putting something actually to bed on that is important to me. But also somewhat related to that, RJ was chiding me, I guess, saying, thinking of opening a Lysol kiosk in the hotel lobby with franchises for sale. Honestly, I was thinking more along the lines of concerns about the whole monkeypox situation and it being able to be either in close contact with someone or anything they were in close contact with, such as bed sheets. And I don't need to tell you to look at any of those black light tests at any hotel. Yeah, I prefer not to think about it for the most part here. But no, I wasn't thinking Lysol. I was thinking maybe more of those full body condoms from, the Naked Gun? Maybe something like that here. Maybe just a breath hole added to it. And that should probably cover you here. I'm mostly joking, but also not sure that I'm not joking either here. Maria Coleman also chiming in here saying they spent their funds traveling across a few countries, including airfare to reach the U.S. Now the taxpayer will pay for their travel. NGOs are tax-funded operations. The federal government is known to be slow pay. Funds that are needed for local issues will be on hold for a month there, referring again to the immigration situation we're looking at there. Yeah, some reimbursement was immediately discussed by, again, I think... Tell me the title right here before I'm trying to guess at it here. Again, Deputy City Manager Mario D'Agostino. But yeah, not too many necessarily flights, at least in this category, to the U.S. Not to say that there is not immigration and illegal entry that happens through flights to the ports of entry. It is a finer point that is often missed in our debate here because it's not really seen as, an issue in our immediate area, but the fact that there is, again, rough estimation of people overstaying their visas and doing some of the illegal ways, that is illegal, overstaying a visa and not leaving, is sometimes estimated to be half or more of the total amount of people not legally in the country, that whole thing. So that also does happen, but I don't think it's not exactly the subset we're talking about dealing with here, and that the local, both nonprofit community and government officials that have stepped in and been a part of this as well are talking about just in our exact area here. So, I mean, NGOs can be taxpayer funded. I know that a lot of them are privately donated to in our area. I mean, I will say the generosity of our region has been almost unparalleled when it comes to dealing with this and any of the changing circumstances that there have been. So I do not place any blame on anyone wanting to really make sure that they help support that in our area of their own whim and volition. Of course, here, Ion Grimm with a concern about teaching social studies and history in the, I think, Texas, are you referring specifically there? I'm showing a comment a little bit too long for us to display on screen here, but of course, you can always go over to our social media and see the full comment for yourself here. Just, you got to keep it to a couple sentences or so, otherwise it just does not show up on our screen here. So I can't pop it up here, but concerned about the taking out of Paul Revere, Sam Adams, JFK, Reagan, and changes the definition of family, community involvement, state and federal government. So again, if you're concerned about those kind of things here, go take a look at it there. I will say one part you're mentioning there about teaching of world religion plus civilization, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, and all of that here. I definitely got that in my public education. Not as a you need to therefore believe in these, but as a these are some of the major factors that have been involved in not even just religious, but world history, and the many different cultures are part of it here. So if you have a level of concern about it, absolutely, raise your voice and take action there. Posting a link to a Texas scorecard there for some of the things to be known. But again, I've actually long relied. It was very foundational for me for a better understanding of the world we inhabit and the many different people that inhabit it, because it may be simple to say, well, those people aren't like us and we will never understand them. But I think a lot more bad has come out of that kind of a standpoint than good. So having a level of understanding, but also, again, there's a difference between understanding, tolerance, and accepting and being bowled over by any other things. The idea of an open mind, anything will fall into it, I reject entirely, because an open mind can entertain an idea without having to accept it here. I know it's not a popular standpoint in this modern day and age, but one I'll keep doing in any case here. So on some of those campaigns here, yes, the O'Rourke campaign expected to return here, before too long probably here. But it's not exactly. I promise to be back on the road as soon as I am able, is what O'Rourke tweeted recently. So I don't think it'll totally be until November that'll happen, unless some other things, serious other things happen. But then on some other of those local circumstances, including, of course, the district attorney's office under a lot of scrutiny lately, as there have been, at least as of today, 75 additional cases sought to be dismissed and now being granted to be dismissed after being, again, sought by public defender Kelly Childress, talking to our news partners again over at KFOX 14, saying, quote, I think it's a lot on the 75 additional criminal cases dismissed. I think it's a lot, but it's pretty much a drop in the bucket compared to what we have. I don't know. I can't tell you what they're thinking and not objecting. Going on to say we filed 617 additional motions last week. We're hoping to get all of those these weeks. So the count on the focus on these cases has caused a lot of response, both from y'all and a lot of the issues here, including some local elected officials, State Rep Joe Moody amongst one of them, him being very involved in criminal justice reform, among other things here. Now, our news partners there did reach out to the district attorney's office to confirm about refiling here. Childress said that there have been 7 cases that have been filed from the original 430, I believe, and the district attorney's office did confirm again to our news partners there at KFOX 14 that they have started refiling cases, but a total number of cases refiled as of Monday has not been provided yet. We have some contact with the district attorney's office on our own, looking to get some more information on many of these subjects here, because, again, the level of concern in the community has been, it's reached out in many different ways here. So getting more information and getting to the bottom of what's going on here, as, again, there's potential for 600 more potentially being dismissed this case due to a lack of indictments being sought and other things here. And Childress pointing out that given that some of the requirements for a lot of different types of cases are having to be acted on within 180 days, Childress further said, again, that being the public defender Kelly Childress, so the majority of the cases that she is attempting to get dropped on the 350 to 530 day range. So we're in the just under to well over a year range in some of these cases here. So yeah, that's definitely been causing a lot of concern here and a lot of people responding to it here, including Kathy Codry with one I can't quite put up on screen here. But one other development thing I wanted to mention, because not that I'm totally focused on not being doom and gloom, but also want to point out important things coming up here. If you've ever been wondering what the heck is going on I-10 as you go kind of either, I guess, technically west from Executive Center here, all that kind of open land that kind of then you see like Topgolf and the iFly area, there actually is now plans finally for a frontage road to be connected through there. It kind of seems like there was already going to be one with that potential for a light there on that kind of rise as it goes over from and where you get off of Executive Center now, that will connect through one of the other roads actually in the area, specifically Mesa Park Drive, which is not too far up Mesa here from our offices. It's kind of a little stub of a street here right now, but could become a very important connector. And so there will be frontage road connecting to, it's already kind of set up if you see it over there near, again, iFly, Montecillo, Topgolf over there. So that production and actual construction expected to start in about late 2024 with a lot of groundwork, surveying, etc. So you'll start seeing things getting laid out, even though you're not going to be able to drive on it for a couple of years, start getting laid out as a little bit later, even maybe this year. So expect more activity there. As long as they don't keep Executive Center closed for another 3 years, I'll be happy. Of course, that was the time that I was working at a television station right about there, and boy, did that stink. Not having the ability to get on I-10 right there definitely put a lot of hamper and damper on our efforts to go anywhere north from that station. But again, it's kind of a take your medicine kind of situation, the way I think of it, because sure, we could not have the construction and not the hassle of it. And when things don't go anymore, yeah, it's a problem here. RJ over on the YouTube here, speaking to one other circumstance here, because in addition to the cases being dismissed, there of course has now been a court petition seeking removal of El Paso District Attorney Yvonne Rosales here. RJ saying Rosales made a statement implying she's investigating her accusers and not so much her own office, referring to not ABC7 Listens. I think you're talking about ABC7 Extra, if I'm not mistaken there. They do have a segment called ABC7 Listens that is similar. So if I'm conflating them, let me know there. But yeah, we didn't even really mention that one here today yet. But of course, that is happening. And now District Attorney Yvonne Rosales is now seeking dismissal of that petition to remove her from office. And there is a new judge that has been appointed to hear that to oust El Paso's top prosecutor, reporting from El Paso Matters, and Bob Moore over there. Let's just say we may have some further conversation about this petition coming up here. And so on Friday, Judge Tryon Lewis of Odessa was appointed to preside over the removal effort. So there's a lot of filings on this. You can find them both from our news partners at KFOX 14 and from some of the reporting that we're talking about there from El Paso Matters. So, okay, RJ saying, yeah, it is ABC7 Extra. Thought so, unless they did a different segment here. I'll freely admit that I don't watch much TV these days. I'm more reading the articles that come out around them here. So if I missed a step, thanks for letting me know. In any case, that's going to take us to that next break right now. What we'll do right now is, of course, what we usually do at this point during the show, which is opening up those phone lines. So if you want to add your 2 cents on any of these issues and a whole lot more, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Got to take that next break right now, but we'll get to more of your comments, more calls, more of everything we do at this point during the program. After this break, you are, of course, tuned into Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, back with a whole lot more after this break. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash involving 2 semis and a couple of vehicles have closed Gateway West at Eastlake. All lanes closed westbound. An injury crash in the clearing stages Trans Mountain eastbound at Dyer. A crash with injuries Mesa Street northbound south of Sunland Park at Festival. And an injury accident reported downtown Father Rom at El Paso Street. Take 7th or Stanton instead. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Want to save 50% on new blinds? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Visit Blindster through September 8th to save 50% off any order during their Labor Day sale. Blindster.com.
Hello?
Mike, this is Norma Jean at Sergio Lewis Body Shop near the airport. Have you seen Sergio?
I'm expecting him in a few minutes to cut a new commercial.
I'm really worried about him, Mike. He really believes he's a poet. It's gone to his head.
There's plenty of room up there. Anyways, his poetry isn't that bad.
Will you please have him call the shop?
Sure, Norma.
That's Norma Jean. Mike, gotta go.
Eee, she's feisty. Hey, Sergio, there you are.
Hey, Mike, I have this great new poem. Check this out, man. Sometimes even our darkest moments are enlightening. Hey, what's so funny, man?
Nothing, Sergio, really. By the way, Norma Jean called.
Really? What did she want?
Oh, she was just telling me what a big fan she is of your poetry, Sergio. Sergio Lewis Body Shop at 3800 Admiral near the airport, where it's the customer's choice, not the insurance company's, and there's a lifetime warranty on all collision repair. 593-0191.
A construction site is a noisy place where things can be misinterpreted. We need to redo the drywall. It can sound a lot like,
rewire the hull? They're firing Paul?
Wait, what did I do? Or even,
install a waterfall. Whose dumb idea was this?
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk, from the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building. Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, how about that drywall?
Talk El Paso, weekdays at 4 on News Radio 690 KTSM, breaking down the impact of the news on the borderland and beyond. Brought to you in part by Mission Del Rey Southwest, souvenirs, gifts, and decor. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m., right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
You don't have to sacrifice great taste to eat healthy. Super Salad is back and better than ever at 8900 Viscount Boulevard. Now under new management, Super Salad is here to feed every craving with delicious salads, soups made from scratch, and lots more. Be sure to try their new signature sandwiches. Choose from pork, steak, chicken, turkey, and even vegan options. Visit Super Salad at 8900 Viscount Boulevard. See the menu and order online for pickup at supersalad.com or get delivery from DoorDash or Uber Eats.
Does it feel like liberty in America is slipping away as the government grows even more powerful? Who better to turn to than Ron Paul for answers? Make sure to listen to The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we're getting into here today, and a lot of commentary on some of these local situations, such as Steve Ivey joining us over on the social media, Facebook there. Good afternoon to you as well, and howdy, Kathy Harding, Super Salad. I always did want the Super Salad, but no one ever has actually had that. Yeah, I know it's an old bad joke, but it lives rent-free in my head. And John Brazelton on what is going on with the roadways and the construction there. It's definitely a take your medicine kind of moment there, but he's saying by then I-10 will no longer be drivable. It's an understatement. At least the state of Texas could put down some asphalt on the interstate lanes here. Careful what you wish for is all I'm going to say to that here, because it's coming, but it's a lot more than you're going to get here. Again, it's been hard to really pin down because it's talked about so piecemeal. So I'm not totally blaming anyone for not having the conception of it here, but this is one item that has lived beyond just rent-free, lived in a mansion. It's squatting in the back of my head for years now, is what is going to be going on with I-10. It is going to be pretty nuts. That's just the best way I can put it here. Yes, I'm sure it'll be fine in quality and done work and very necessary, but we are talking about the redoing, and it's already begun. Make no mistake, what has been going on from basically the New Mexico state line now through Mesa on the west side. They're adding the lane. They essentially redid the surface of it in part, and a lot of like base road work kind of on a rolling basis over the last like 3 to 5 years. Don't have an exact timeline I can point to there. But point is, once they're done with that lane expansion, they're going to be ready to roll right over into that next segment, that other part of I-10, basically in between Mesa and not quite other Mesa, but essentially Mesa on the west side to the Spaghetti Bowl. So kind of past where Mesa again then meets I-10 over near downtown. And that's not just going to be some refinishing, not just putting some asphalt on the interstate lanes, so to speak. Remember all those access roads they've added in most of the places, except kind of for that stretch because of, well, UTEP and the UTEP Mountains over there. It's its own kerfuffle. But the whole idea of the I-10 Extend project, the mobility and the maybe expanding of the trench through downtown, yeah, that's coming next. So if you're asking for more asphalt, oh, you're going to get that and then some more. But of course, it doesn't even stop there, because really when it comes down to it, and the one thing that, again, I'm never going to forget this, is that El Paso's section of I-10 has essentially had 70 years of deferred roadbed maintenance, because once constructed, there was really no relief route. So they're going to be having to do and move everything off there as they get not just down to some resurfacing, but getting down into the literal depth of the dirt underneath I-10 as it exists right now. Yeah, that's some visuals for you, ain't it? Because having to do that and get down there and maybe adjust, move things just to account for settling, not going to be a simple process. And that's going to happen probably over to the Spaghetti Bowl, and then probably over on the side of the Spaghetti Bowl to pick a East El Paso intersection like Lee Trevino, but definitely before Joe Battle, and then probably from Joe Battle and out to the eastern extent of the county here. This is why, if you've ever been wondering why I say we're looking at about another decade of major highway road work, this is why I say that. And it's coming, and Kathy Coterie pointing out, yeah, big money there. So this was 2015, 2016 dollars here, the number that I was last quoted. So it by no means I would expect it to be still reasonable, even if it wasn't for the massive inflation we've seen this year. if it was for all that project, everything I just mentioned on I-10 for just roadbed and surface redoing there, that was going to be about $800 million to deal with the bridges. And what I mean by bridges is nothing but the international ones, just every time that I-10 is technically not just on the roadbed, where it is something elevated. So we're talking about when it crosses arroyos, where it crosses, any of the overpasses, any of that would be, in this case, considered a bridge. And if those were going to have to be redone, that price would have ballooned to about $1.5 billion at that point in time. And for the total project, and again, we're talking like 2015, 2016 numbers here. So yeah, buckle up. It's laughing to keep from crying kind of situation here. Anyway, that's going to take us through that next break of the hour here. We'll talk about a lot more of this issues. And again, do have that phone line open there. Again, people chiming in over on the social media. We'll get to more of those comments, as well as if you want to add your 2 cents over on the phone line, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break and the top of the hour news with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. That phone number one more time before we hit that break is you can get on the line here and we'll get you right up at the start of the segment. 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. See you in a minute. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Now, the right lane's back open now on Gateway West at Eastlake in the Low Valley after that earlier crash involving 2 semis. Traffic going slowly, but at least it's moving. An injury crash downtown, South Santa Fe at San Antonio. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder, I-10 eastbound at Schuster, and road construction has 2 lanes closed. America's Avenue eastbound at North Loop Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
With so many real estate agents to choose from, how do you find the best one? Hi, it's Glenn Beck. One key is just looking for the investment that an agent is willing to make to get your home sold. Brian Birds with eXp Realty and his team have a marketing budget 25 times higher than the average agent's annual income. This means your home gets maximum exposure because it's marketed to the widest possible audience and gets you the highest possible sales price. Brian is so confident in his ability to sell your home fast and for more money that he's willing to put his own money on the line. If your home doesn't sell at the price and deadline you agreed to, he'll buy it from you himself. You're not going to find another real estate agent in El Paso who is that invested in getting your home sold. He's the only one I'd call. Google Brian Birds. That's Brian, B-U-R-D-S. Read over 400 5-star reviews because I'm not the only one who knows you should call Brian Birds. Google Brian Birds or just check out brianbirds.com.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day.
I don't watch television, so I get all my news from you.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Whatever you're feeling, whatever you're going through, it's real and it matters. Anxious, sad, numb, lonely, frustrated, or empty. Whether you're dealing with bullying or feeling depressed, you don't have to do it alone. If you or someone you know needs support, reaching out for help is a strong thing to do. Text START to 741-741 to reach a volunteer crisis counselor at Crisis Text Line. It's 24/7, free and private. Help is just a text away.
Stay informed at KTSMradio.com.
I get it. Your desk has been there for you, holding up your computer, your unused stapler, and that plant you forgot to water. But maybe it's time to leave your desk and spend your lunch break volunteering with Meals on Wheels.
Doing Meals on Wheels for me is the joy that I look for at the end of my week. I'll come to the door with one meal and I'll walk away with a full heart.
Drop off a warm meal and get more than you expect. Volunteer at americaletsdolunch.org. That's americaletsdolunch.org. Brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Because you never hear this.
Hey, hon, I'm late. Chris, I am so pleased you missed the beginning of our meeting.
Thanks for making me wait, Dad. I talked to a lot of strangers.
Check on your commute. Stay informed. Traffic and weather all day. Or you might never hear the end of it.
Well, you were late to our anniversary dinner that one time.
Yes, how could I forget?
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook.
A top Biden administration official is on board with a review of documents seized from former President Trump's South Florida home. John Kirby called it appropriate. His remarks come after Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines notified Congress that agencies are working together to review classified material recovered from Mar-a-Lago. A meeting is planned for tomorrow to discuss the Artemis 1 rocket launch after it was scrubbed earlier today. It comes as the next launch window won't open before Friday. President Biden is set to address the nation this week in prime time, just months before November's midterm elections. He heads to Pennsylvania tomorrow to talk about reducing gun violence in the U.S.
He will highlight how his plan would invest 100 more cops for effective, accountable community policing that builds public trust and strengthens public safety.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters Biden will be promoting his Safer America plan. That includes boosting funding for the FBI and other law enforcement agencies. Twitter is celebrating what could be tennis superstar Serena Williams' final appearance at the U.S. Open this evening. Lisa G. reports.
If you tweet about Williams, you will now see a special emoji to celebrate and honor her final tournament and recognize her career. A goat emoji holding a tennis racket will appear next to the hashtags Serena, Serena Williams, and thank you, Serena. GOAT stands for greatest of all time. Meantime, win or lose Monday night, the 40-year-old will be given an elaborate farewell ceremony after her first-round match. Lisa G., New York.
Stocks are extending last week's sell-off on lingering rate hike fears. The Dow Jones lost 184 points to 32,098. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. Families impacted by the mass school shooting in Uvalde, Texas, are demanding the state legislature raise the minimum age to buy assault rifles to 21. At a weekend rally at the Texas state capitol, one angry parent advised lawmakers to either man up or get out of the way. The first trial from the Roden family mass killing from 2016 is getting underway. Jack Crumley has the details.
Jury selection is starting in Pike County for the trial of George Wagner IV. He's pleading not guilty to multiple counts, including aggravated murder in the massacre of 8 members of the Roden family more than 6 years ago. Wagner's younger brother Jake has already pled guilty, admitting to killing 5 of the victims, and he's agreed to testify against his family members to spare them a possible death sentence. Their mother Angela has also taken a plea deal, but George and his father Billy Wagner are pleading not guilty. Opening statements are expected next week.
Newly appointed U.S. Ambassador to Sudan, John Godfrey, says the establishment of a civilian-led government is key to facilitating better U.S.-Sudan cooperation. In Khartoum, Nabaa Mohideen says the first U.S. ambassador to Sudan in 25 years arrived in Khartoum last week.
The U.S. ambassador met with Sudan's acting foreign minister, Dafal al-Hajj, for talks on U.S.-Sudan relations. In a statement issued after his arrival in Sudan, Godfrey said that he is delighted to be in the country. He described this as a key to facilitating greater government-to-government cooperation and greater U.S. and international development assistance.
Elon Musk's mother, May, is revealing the somewhat surprising sleeping arrangements at her son's Texas home. She says that despite her son being the world's richest man, when she visits him in Texas, she has to sleep in the garage due to lack of space. She told the New York Times Elon, quote, can't have a fancy house near a rocket site. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
Now your chance at $1,000 and a trip to our 2022 iHeartRadio Music Festival. Text the nationwide keyword LUCKY to 200-200. You'll get a confirmation text and info. Standard data and message rates apply in this nationwide contest. That's LUCKY to 200-200.
This report is sponsored by the Mark Moss Show podcast.
We reached the tipping point this week. Big news regarding global money and energy just came out, and you better get ready. I'm Mark Moss, helping you navigate the decentralized revolution. So listen to the Mark Moss Show on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Help the planet with a tip from iHeartRadio Earth. Save money and energy at home this summer by using window coverings, such as curtains or shades, to prevent heat gain through your windows during the day. Some shades can reduce unwanted solar heat through windows by up to 60%. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Save money and energy all summer by keeping your thermostat at 78 or higher.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690, KTSM, an iHeart radio station.
I spent a lot of time in the garage, but even more time in the rain and mud. In 95, I helped tow your moving trailer. And in 09, it was sparks from me, your chains, dragging behind your truck that accidentally started a wildfire.
Spark a change, not a wildfire. Visit SmokeyBear.com, brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Donna from Louisiana. The storm just hit, and we went from donating to the food bank to needing it.
Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690, KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social media pages. We got you up on facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or twitch.tv, Andrew J. Polk. Now, there's never going to be a quiz, at least not on air anyway. Maybe we'll have it at an event or something, but you're never going to have to know these things to just be able to participate, be a part of the show, add your 2 cents, and that you can. In most of those places, yeah, Twitter's more of a DM thing, but in any case, we mention them in order so you can know whatever works for you best, how to get at us, how to make your commentary, how to add to the conversation in whatever ways you choose to, or just stay informed. Equally valid here, but this is the point of the program where if you want to be a little bit more active with it, again, if you can do so safely, don't be commenting if you're driving, holding the phone between your knees in one hand and drinking and eating a sandwich with the other. Like, please don't do that. Please. You can always see the show later and add your 2 cents later on. Another advantage with all those platforms here. But if you want to call in, we of course have that phone line open. That number to do so, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. John Browse letting a comment over the break there. Speaking of driving, calling for shut down one side of I-10 from UTEP to Airway and rebuild each side of the interstate for several years. At least it would get done. I'm not going to say that would make too much of a sense here. I'm not really sure once you get much past there, if there's really a way, because, I mean, I know what you're kind of talking about, put all of the traffic onto one side there, but if there's really a way to do that efficiently, because I-10 is very well split. Like, sure, they've done that up in parts of, like, New Mexico, but you would have to do that essentially before really Mesa itself over that way, and I'm not even sure if that's going to be feasible. Really, when it comes to the major and kind of master plan, if there really is one, I almost feel like master plan is a little bit too aggrandized because it assumes that one person or one entity has control of all of our roadways, which that defies reality and what you can experience by just going out on the roads here. What is going to be happening is that essentially all of the other work besides I-10, we are talking about the renewal of the border highway, the kind of finalizing of Loop 375, the border highway west extension, that whole mess that happened over near Sunland Park, all of that, and I do mean all of that, had an idea in mind towards being relief routes for I-10 being shut down itself here. So I'm not going to entirely rule out what you're talking about there, but once we start getting into some of the nitty gritty and those areas of the really high volume and density of traffic here, I'm not sure it's going to be that possible. So long story short, I wouldn't hold my breath, but hopefully they'll have some creative, if more useful than not, hopefully, solutions. Anyway, again, if you want to get your 2 cents on the line here, either add your commentary over there, also dropping those likes and reacts. We do appreciate Steve Ivy, Ion Graham, James Holmes, Ed Clore, Flaco Jimenez, Robbie Flores, Ted Kors, Ida Beza Gardner, and one more that's not showing me for some reason here. Again, if you want to add your 2 cents here, I think Monica Cervantes, if I didn't mention that one, is also over there. Yeah, don't leave anyone out here because we do appreciate it. And RJ saying it sounds like a good time to work from home for that revamping coming along. I was thinking it's a good time to invest in a personal helicopter, though who knows, by the time we actually get to this, some of these shutdowns, maybe we'll have some of those personal drones with a seat either like underslung underneath it or hopefully like a nice actual seat and not just a hammock. But who knows? I'm not going to hold my breath on that one either here. But again, getting back to those phone lines now. Again, the number to call there, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Raul in the Northeast on the line here with us right now. Raul, thanks for joining us.
Hey, Andrew. I've been in El Paso quite a while. I've been I was born here, and I've lived here most of my life. And I have found that El Paso is a microcosm in the macrocosm. Both are ruled by plutocrats. It's all about power and money and power chasing each other. It's the golden rule. It's the best politicians money can buy. It's the ruling elites who are the descendants of the founding families of the region in agriculture, farming, banking, mining, refining, at one time smelting, wholesaling, and real estate development. That's a big one. At the national level, it's the energy, banking, insurance, chemical, telecommunications, pharmaceutical, military, industrial complex companies, the S&P 500. Names like Rockefeller, Morgan, DuPont, Vanderbilt. And these economic elites play the game to win and flood politicians and legislatures with lobbyists who sell the policies and laws that these people want, accompanied with campaign contributions to the politicians who do their bidding. Now, in 2021, for example, the total number of registered lobbyists who have actively lobbied in the United States amounted to about 12,137 of those people. That's a ratio of 23 to 1, 23 lobbyists for every congressperson at the federal level. And the same thing happens at the state level. They're all over the place over there in Austin. I've been over there to visit and to protest, and they're all over the place. And when these people's sides win, then they staff the regulatory and supervisory agencies with their representatives. They put the foxes in charge of the chicken coops, and everybody knows that money is the mother's milk of politics. And America and Americans are crippled by these forces that are anti-democratic and authoritarian in nature. In every age, and most countries have seen tyrants and their sycophants and their moronic masses. And the tyrants consolidate total power, and the sycophant simp and the moronic masses are used and treated like pawns. Now, the ancient Greeks wrote that the antidote to tyrants was virtuous leaders. And virtue means being a morally excellent person, making righteous decisions, even the idea of being chaste. So we know that Donald Trump didn't make any of that grade. He's the antithesis of virtue. And look what he led this country to. He's a wannabe tyrant. He tried to overthrow the government with a coup. What clear evidence does one need? And it'll all be proven in time. It's all in the works now. So, it is just horrible what's been going on in this country for so long. And no wonder the people are fed up. It's a very sad thing. And then on top of that, we have an environment that's been crippled by man's greed and pollution of the planet. That's another giant problem that we have facing us. So the loss of democracy, a hurting planet, and then can't forget that no one is safe anywhere, anytime in America because of the gun nuts and the proliferation of guns and the power of the gun lobby in this country. It is very, very sad and distressing.
Well, I mean, I take your concern about these in stride here, and I'm not surprised at least one of the conclusions you came to there. But let me just put it this way here. Yes, well, the big headline news when it comes out here, how it affects us here. There's been a lot of commentary about that. I'm aware of the Mothers Against Greg Abbott, a little bit closer to home on some of those things. Been putting out some interesting spots and advertising on that. I don't think I've heard it on our airwaves here, but let's just say that, okay, trying to break down some of this here. I mean, the level of risk you assume whenever you go outside is significant, but when it comes to those specific incidents you were talking about, not safe on the streets, gun violence, etc. here, and it's very interesting anytime I hear someone refer to the power of the gun lobby in one very specific area, and even then it's been more of a lightning rod kind of thing here, because the power of the gun lobby has actually been, if you want to talk about what people like, say, in the gun community have wanted for years now, is nowhere near. I mean, we've seen somewhat of advancement of, say, constitutional carry or permitless carry, etc., across some states. That has increased to a level. But what is actually available, I mean, if you want to talk about what has actually been being pushed for, such as with the National Firearms Act and the gun registry of the 1980s here, that's long been a focus there, and nowhere has actually been moved on that. So talking about the power of the gun lobby to maybe avoid issues or avoid lawsuits, I think is what it really comes down to here. But the simple fact of the matter is that almost literally any other implement is something that you are more likely to be killed by here in the United States, whether it be a blunt instrument, whether it be a car or any other thing. So not by any means downplaying that, and a lot of conversation around Uvalde does, of course, continue on here. But putting things in perspective, I think, is very important when it comes to that debate here. But when it comes down to the idea of power in government, that's really what you're talking about in my mind here. Of course, you have a very particular gripe with some certain individuals here, but the idea of centralization of power is really, I think, what, whether you intend it or not, you're getting at there. The idea that, I know it's been talked about previously, the idea of, sure, we could have, someone, a good person in control here. Star Wars even went into that there. If you want to go to the prequel series, I thought it was okay. But if you're talking about the idea that centralization of power is okay as long as the people who are doing it is okay, just kind of goes against human nature now, doesn't it? I mean, whether you're talking about it in terms of, virtuous leaders or philosopher kings, or one of my more favorite phrases from, say, the era of the Enlightenment or, the about 1800s or so, the benevolent despots. One of my favorite phrases. I should probably get it on a sign somewhere because I think about it a lot. The idea that we could have these people with absolute control. They are incontrovertible. There is no way to go against them, but they're good. They're nice. So we really don't have that much to complain about. That is why, as a central and core tenet of how both A, the American experiment was started out as, and B, how we should probably consider our values and country going forward here, is the idea that if a power exists and something that you think is something that could be, it's so great if the guy I like is in control of it, but it would be so awful if the guy I don't like is in control of it. Perhaps, and I know I've said this before, but it bears repeating, perhaps that power shouldn't exist. The centralization of power is a concept I long struggled with as why is it so bad? Central planning, making things work together. What's so wrong about that? But as with anything, there needs to be a balance, that if it all goes down to only the power exists in the center, then if the peripheries have their own individual issues, their different issues, their different perspectives, they will just get steamrolled over. So the idea of it's fine as long as a guy I like is in charge of it, guy writ large as any person here, seriously, that's not a good system and literally not how the U.S. was designed to be, even if it has moved that way quite a long way here. Anyway, thanks for the point of the call. Do appreciate it. And yes, I do thank our callers for calling because I appreciate the effort anyway, even if I may take some efforts or disagreements therein with some of the finer points being made there. And so do appreciate it in its due course here. Let's get to at least one more call before we hit this next break right now. Again, that number to call if you want to get on the line here is 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. At one point I want to get to Eric von Holstein-Rathlow saying a 23 lobbyist to every congressman. Well, you can't blame President Trump for that. I'll agree with that. And again, it's long been the circumstance here, but I'll tell you what, I'll maybe get into that more next segment because there's a lot, and I mean a lot more to unpack there than even just that here. So we do have, again, that number to call 915-544-5876-544-KTSM. We do have Richard calling in from states to the west here. Richard from Arizona. Richard, thanks for joining us.
Actually, that's my name is Arizona Richard.
Oh, Arizona Richard. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I use that name when I call them sports talk all these years.
Okay.
Anyway, just a couple of things. I tuned in a little late. I noticed you had programming changing Sunday night. Is that a new thing or?
Let's just say we had some other commentary about that as well. Let's just say that was an emergency method being required there, as there was some technical faults on this and should not be permanent by any means.
Okay. Well, I was pleased to hear it instead of Billy Cunningham, but that's my own opinion. But just a couple things, and I'll try to be brief.
Mm-hmm.
I drive around overnight because I do rideshare, so I see a lot of these headaches in terms of all the construction and this, that, and the other thing. And, what it reminds me of, being from Phoenix and Tucson, too, is what was going on 20, 25 years ago over there.
Mm-hmm.
Rapid growth, people moving in, the need for more roads and arterials, and that's what we're seeing here, especially if you go to the east side.
Oh, yeah.
And I used to work, my last regular job before I retired was in urban planning. So I worked a lot on that area. However, we didn't do the road, so to speak. But you're fast tracking so fast out in the east that in due time, and in fact, it's happening now. It's going so fast that you cannot keep up with the infrastructure of the roads and so forth. And I have projected that maybe within 10 or 15 years, they might have to do another loop like they do in the other Texas cities, perhaps in Horizon around Ascension Road.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so don't be surprised if you see that 10, 20 years down the road. It's just, that's how fast it's going. But the thing that concerns me driving around in the evening when they shut down these roads is I'd like to know who plans these detours and closures, because it's just not safe.
Mm-hmm.
And with the problem that we have with the irresponsible drivers, they're just going too fast. And I just, that's my number one complaint when it comes to that. So be prepared for more headaches, especially if you're driving overnight, especially you folks on the east side. My hat's off to you, but you got headaches now. Well, let's wait till we see it in the next 10 years. But I got one last thing just to think about, because I want to be brief. Then you can comment. The news story about the police vehicles being damaged by drunk drivers this past week.
Right.
Again, I see that all the time. And real quick, and I try to get answers from law enforcement officers, is in Phoenix a while back, they would set up DUI checkpoints all over town, and they would incorporate all the local Phoenix law enforcement, the sheriff, the various cities, and they would set them up all over town. And I was told more or less that for some reason they can't do that here in Texas, but that doesn't seem right to me. And I would like to know, maybe if you can research what a definitive answer is. If they cannot set up DUI roadblocks here in El Paso or Texas, why is that so? I would like to see a concrete law why that cannot be, because this town is terrible at nighttime with drunk driving. It really is. I see a lot of things. In any event, I wanted to keep it brief, but perhaps you can expand on that. Thanks.
Sure thing. Thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. You have a good one there. I mean, yeah, the roadways are. I remember when I first moved back to town with my family here back in the late 90s, there was that sign going around saying, the state motto of Texas, men at work, the state flag of Texas being the construction stop sign, the state flower of Texas being the cone, and the state animal being the traffic barrel here. I feel like we're getting back into that era here. So yeah, buckle up, both literally and figuratively is a good way to put it here. But also, yeah, the drunk driving is, I mean, as much as we talk with mothers against drunk driving, there's still quite the epidemic of it on our roads here, and particularly in southern New Mexico as well. I mean, it's one of the more serious issues with driving in those areas. And so I don't have a specific law I can point to here, at least not finding it immediately, but essentially my understanding is that the way Texas's DWI laws are written, it is illegal to hold those field sobriety checkpoints. All they can do, then this is not to say that there aren't checkpoints, but all they can do is general checkpoints. Essentially, that all they can do is say, stop you, ask for documentation, and then they might be able to ask you other questions saying, like, have you been drinking tonight? And those kind of things here, because, they can't do specifically like that, DWI enforcement. They definitely are more during those time periods, but they are more general ones in which you can get, pulled in for, a lack of documentation, expired tags, those kind of things here. So yes, you are essentially correct that in Texas, they cannot do DWI checkpoints, essentially for unconstitutional Fourth Amendments prohibiting unreasonable searches and seizures. And again, they do consider Texas here, the courts have previously ruled that stops at DWI checkpoints are a form of seizure, is essentially what it comes down to. So we would definitely need to have some changes to laws going to make that more viable here, because I definitely share a level of concern with you more than that. I'm not usually out late nights, but I have a decent amount of times find myself late here at the station on a Friday night preparing for the weekend's programming here. And if we get anywhere near 2 a.m., anywhere near bar time in this area, like even like at 1 a.m., I started thinking, well, I guess I'm here till 3 now, because I don't want to be anywhere near on the roads when people are starting to leave the bars or then have to leave the bars here. Like, I mean, as much as third shift first responders, I have a lot of care and concern for what they deal with. I don't think if I had to choose any other job or like jumping off a cliff, I would choose being anyone in on a third shift on like a Friday or Saturday night, because that is nuts. Eric von Holstein Rathlow. saying I used to make good money making road construction zone signs here. I believe that entirely. And Ted Core is asking, Fourth Amendment, I know they set up insurance checkpoints. Again, that's what they essentially can do. They are just more general checkpoints. They cannot be DWI checkpoints. And so that's one of the things about, these field sobriety, like asking everyone those kind of things here. It's complicated, as anything involving the law is, so we are well past the way for that next break right now. Again, if you want to add your 2 cents on the line, more than welcome to do so. That number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. If you're on the line, stay there. Otherwise, if you want to get on the line again, that's the number to call. So back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
An earlier crash involving 2 semis and a couple of other vehicles had closed Gateway West at East Lake earlier. The right lane now is open there. They can expect delays. Downtown East San Antonio at Santa Fe, an injury accident. A crash Loma Land at Bengal Drive. Take Vista del Sol as an alternate. And Wedgwood Drive at McRae, causing some problems and some slowing. Police and medical on the scene there. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Wendy's $5 Biggie Bag. Wendy's Biggie Bag is still just $5. Get a double stack junior bacon cheeseburger or crispy chicken BLT plus 4-piece nugs, small fries, and a small drink. Grab your bag at Wendy's today. Includes choice of double stack JBC or crispy chicken BLT with 4-piece nugs, small drink, and fries. U.S. price and participation may vary. Prices may be higher in Alaska and Hawaii.
You wash your hands and brush your teeth, but what about your nose? How do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage pulls saline in one nostril, around the back of the nose, and out the other nostril, flushing out allergens, mucus, dirt, and germs, and it's why nose cleaning is the next evolution in daily personal hygiene. People try Navage for lots of reasons: sinusitis, allergies, snoring, things that make it hard to breathe through your nose. But over time, they also find that cleaning their nose makes them feel better, a lot better. Nearly 3 million Navage users have written more than 100,000 reviews, averaging 4.7 stars, saying things like, best product I've ever used, and amazing, I love my Navage. That's because Navage helps you breathe better, sleep deeper, and snore less. But the biggest payoff is improved health. Here's the key point. Navage is good personal hygiene, and it's going to help you stay healthier. At Walmart, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, Target, and online. Navage, Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Now, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, August 26th through September 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $29.39. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Now, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. Drive sober or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Traffic's bad enough without Mother Nature adding to your headache. Traffic and weather all day. Stay informed with El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM. El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to chime in on the show. Of course, we got the social media pages up, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, either under Talk El Paso or Andrew J. Polk. Those phone lines out there as well. Pull up at the moment, but if you want to squeeze in, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Some more of the comments coming in here. Again, Ted Core is asking again at the end of the last segment about the Fourth Amendment when in regards to the DWI checkpoints and things like that. honestly, if you do a search for, as I was just doing and combing through during the break there, DWI checkpoints, Texas, you're going to find umpteen dozen different little law firms putting out things about drunk driving, about these things, and about how even if it is a quote-unquote insurance or documentation checkpoint, they may be able to fight it as an illegal DWI checkpoint. So, yeah, definitely very much a factor of Texas law. To further answer your question, though, don't want to kind of leave you hanging there. You may have heard about the no refusal weekends kind of thing here, because yeah, you cannot be, of course, required by just an officer to give a blood sample, those kind of things. You can refuse all of that. But that's why Texas did implement, ended up doing those across the state, those no refusal weekends, in which it is essentially they have set up these expedited systems so that like a judge is essentially on call to issue a search warrant for a police officer able to articulate that there is the need for a blood sample in order to do a test. So that's kind of the workaround that's been done. At the very least, that's why you may have heard about that in popular different ways in media and such here. RJ saying a little bit earlier here, saying carrying a gun nowadays without insurance is at your own peril and bankruptcy. Yeah. What was the phrase I used to hear? That on anyone's holster, if they're deciding to carry, particularly now in Texas, with it being the whole permitless and or constitutional carry, whichever way you prefer to talk about it, just put a nice little $10,000 sign somewhere on there where you'll see it prominently, because if you ever even have to withdraw it from its holster, that's probably going to be the cost of the case, regardless of the outcome for it. Personal costs and fees are definitely still a thing here. And some more commentary on our commentators, including praising of great reading tone and inflection to give dramatic flair here. And more about rent-free space here. Yeah, I've got to say, it definitely is. We have a lot of free real estate around here. So, anyway, getting back to those phone lines now. Again, that number to call if you want to squeeze in, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We do have Mario on the east side here with us right now. Mario, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Andrew.
Hey there. What's on your mind?
Yes, sir. I want to make a comment. I think Andrew mentioned the proliferation of guns.
Mm-hmm.
And it is true, there's a lot of guns out there. But it is the criminals, the people who do not follow the law, that get the guns. Now, I'm all for, legislation, to make things better so that people cannot get guns. But really, ultimately, the problem is the heart of a person. If a person has hatred, if a person it's just deranged, that person is going to get a gun, whether legally or illegal. But he's going to get a gun, and he knows what he wants to do. So really, the problem, once again, it is the heart of a man. Because you can have all the laws out there in the world, the best laws, but if you have a deranged human being, he's going to kill. Like, for instance, the guy from Mobilized, Ramos. The guy was a pothead. The guy, he went to, he would go to Wendy's, and of course, he mentioned to one of the coworkers that he wants to kill his grandma, and that he can't wait to get outside. Get off of work so he can go, smoke pot. Now, that's one of the big problems too. The marijuana, which is a very dangerous drug. A lot of people take it as, hey, it's medicinal. No, actually, it's very harmful. It has THC, nothing like what the marijuana had in the 1970s. It creates all kinds of mental maladies that alters their state of mind. Their perception. They see things different. They get all kinds of mental sicknesses. Infirmities. And we can go to the last killer, Ubalde, the previous one. 4 of them, if I can remember, Nicholas also was a pothead. So once again, I think Andrew mentioned the proliferation of guns. There is a lot of guns, but once again, it's the heart. We need to, you can legislate all you want to, but if a person's heart, it's on the wrong path, we're going to have the same problem, that we've been having. I think there's a scripture in the Bible where it says, in his pride, man has forgotten God. In all his thoughts, there is no room for God. So basically, they disregard, they don't have time for God. So that's my humble opinion as far as, guns.
Well, fair enough. Well, thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Absolutely there. I mean, I think when it comes to whatever the source of a person's morality is, whether it be their religion, their spiritual beliefs, their upbringing, whatever it is, to say that there hasn't been an issue within this country here is just, again, not in recognition of reality. I don't much care where someone sources it from as long as it is a very firmly ingrained part of their character, whether they were brought up to it or they find it themselves here. I mean, there are some very basic things that any person of any race, creed, religion, culture, etc. can agree upon. And if we cannot see those kind of things enforced, we are truly having some very serious issues here. But I mean, as much as there's concern with, the lethality of implements. And I mean, I know it's a cliche at this point in time. Guns don't kill people, people kill people. But I will say, of the unspecified number of firearms that I keep and maintain on my own, not one of them have ever having to be fired in anger, nor done anything on their own. The intention is really what that kind of, again, cliche is getting at, is it's the intention of the person that determines what the action is being taken. And yes, it's very easy to say, well, let's just get rid of all of it and it'll be fine. We don't have to worry about these scary things anymore. I mean, I'll say this. If there was a way to magically make all of them disappear and not any of it, I mean, in this kind of kumbaya peace on earth way, sure, that would probably work for a spell up until we get someone, the whole, if you want to go to The Simpsons did it, board versus a board with a nail in it and the arms race starting again that way. I mean, we've been doing that throughout the entirety of recorded and probably pre-recorded history, finding better ways to harm each other. So I'm not saying that will solve it permanently, but it would solve a certain amount of issues if it could be done. Now, the if there is the real sticky part of that, because if it could be done, I would love to know how people would propose for that, because doing things such as gun buyback, such as, voluntary turn-ins, even red flags, those end up being kind of touchy-feely, feel-good things that end up being a lot of security theaters. We talked about it in different ways, because actually taking the implements away from criminals, or even making sure that criminals can no longer achieve things, it's almost a fundamental misunderstanding of the law, frankly, where it comes down to it, because a lot of people talk about crime prevention. Oh, we don't want any more crime. And the whole belief in the rule of law is incredibly important to that. But most of our laws, and I do mean most, are almost entirely focused on aftermath, on dealing with it, on prosecution, investigation, etc. Because the idea of crime prevention is a relatively new one, and not really how any law enforcement agency, as much as, information and intelligence and, getting data on, like, say, terrorist attacks has become a very much increased focus in this century, in this millennia here in this country. It's very different. I remember hearing John Ashcroft speak after his term being there in the previous administration, the Bush administration, talking about that and how it has had to change, but it's not really well geared toward either law or law enforcement. So saying that we need to prevent all the crime we can is a very big misunderstanding. Really, it comes from enforcement and making it clear that there are going to be penalties. So if people stop caring about that, that's almost a bigger question than I can answer here on this program, even in a full damn show here. So again, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it. We got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we got more calls in line, full up again already, but we'll squeeze in what we can. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Again, that number, if you want to get on, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Stay tuned.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Hello, everyone. This is Robert Olguin with your KFOX 14 News Update. State officials are in El Paso to help process migrants at the city's largest homeless shelter. About 50 migrants were processed at the Opportunity Center for the Homeless this afternoon. Members with the Texas Division of Emergency Management and members of the National Guard took over the processing of the migrants. Caseworkers there had been processing the migrants previously, and as of last week, had been busing migrants to other cities, including New York and Chicago. More people continue to have their criminal cases dismissed in El Paso County. This comes after El Paso DA Yvonne Rosales did not secure indictments in a timely manner. An additional 75 criminal cases were dismissed today at the county courthouse. Public Defender Kelly Childress said that they have filed 617 additional motions and are hoping to get all those this week. This has been your KFOX 14 News Update. I'm Robert Olguin.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
An earlier crash involving two semis and a couple of other vehicles had closed Gateway West at East Lake earlier. The right lane now is open there. They can expect delays. Downtown East San Antonio at Santa Fe, an injury accident. A crash Loma Land at Bengal Drive. Take Vista del Sol as an alternate. And Wedgwood Drive at McRae, causing some problems and some slowing. Police and medical on the scene there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the Forewarned Weather Center, I'm CBS 4 meteorologist Kira Miner. We'll see a mix of sun and clouds as we start the new week with warmer than average temperatures as they climb into the middle 90s. Isolated showers and storms will be possible during the afternoon and evening, with scattered storms expected to the east of El Paso. Storm prospects will increase by Tuesday with temperatures in the 80s. For a full look at your forecast, head on over to our website at cbs4local.com.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
What does the political landscape look like heading into the midterm elections? We're going to ask Robert Kahali of the Trafalgar Group, who has a history of getting things right. Don't miss The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
On a busy construction site, things can be misinterpreted. Bring in the bulldozer. It can sound a lot like,
building looks mediocre.
Designs need a do-over.
or even,
Install a roller coaster? Okay.
be on the same page at every stage with Autodesk. From the designers to the field crew to the owner of the finished building, Autodesk Construction Cloud gives everyone clarity. Now, can we actually bring in the bulldozer?
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know how important it is to be confident in all of life's close-up moments.
And bad breath can rob you of your confidence.
Yeah, it can. Whenever I'm rubbing elbows with celebrities or friends or just chilling at home, I got to make sure I have the confidence that comes with Smart Mouth mouthwash.
Smart Mouth is clinically proven to eliminate and prevent bad breath for 24 hours with just 2 rinses a day.
Get to your favorite retailer right now for that kind of better together confidence.
Find Smart Mouth at your favorite retailer or at smartmouth.com/radio.
Talk El Paso, bringing you the biggest stories from the borderland and beyond, 4 to 6 p.m. every weekday, brought to you in part by Sergio Lewis Body Shop. Call the pros at 915-593-0191. That's Talk El Paso, Monday through Friday at 4, right here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Samuel Colt was an American inventor, industrialist, and businessman who brought us the gun that won the West, the revolver. Be sure to catch this week's edition of Our American Stories on the iHeartRadio app, on Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This report is sponsored by the Our American Stories podcast.
Always just minutes away from the latest news around town and around the world.
You need to know what's going on.
News Radio 690 KTSM. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of stuff we're talking about here today, and a lot of calls we're taking on the line here as well. Taking a little bit late in the hour here, but we'll squeeze in what we can. Again, that number to call is 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM. And at least one comment coming in here, wondering about the Bill Cunningham show. Again, in brief, there was a major equipment failure there on Sunday night here, so we want to make sure we at least had programming on for you, so we filled with certain things. So no permanent changes. Anything else changing, we'll be sure to let you all know here. But things was in here early this morning, fixing a lot of it. So should be good to go with the rest of our usual programming here, even coming up today. If you're able to hear any of our other programming in the 6 hours preceding this show, you were knowing that system was fixed there. But otherwise, RJ saying on the whole, the entire whole prevention of crime, you're saying Minority Report AI is almost here, but not quite yet. So again, I say I didn't shoot nobody, so leave me and my gun alone, along with the millions of others in the same boats. Honestly, that is kind of an underrated point. I will say here, not necessarily about that, but I mean, okay, quoting a Bloomberg article from May of this year, that how many guns is available to civilians in the United States here, about 39.3 million, which would put it roughly at about 120 firearms per 100 residents, or 1.2 guns per person. So that's kind of part of the reasoning you get there. Because seriously, if guns themselves were the problem here, if guns were the things making murder likely, I mean, sure, there's the whole stats about suicide and things like that, and we can get further into that if we want to. But if we're saying that, the guns and the presence of them makes it so that we murder, if every gun was the cause of murder, the U.S. would have been wiped out already, just plain and simple. Because, yeah, that's not how that works. Anyway, getting to at least a couple more calls here. We do have Alan in the Northeast with us right now. Alan, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, how you doing, Andrew? I had to look at my calendar real quick. Thought it was Friday there because the topics are all over the pool table here today. But
fair enough.
I never thought I'd say this, but I heard Raul's analysis of the corrupt power system in government. I thought he was very succinct and to the point on a number of things. Until he flies off the rail, and I guess he thinks that Trump is the only president that we've ever had. This power system that he described very well, and I want to compliment you, Raul. I thought your analysis of it was very good. But let's remember that since World War II, at least, the Democrats have been in power 80% of the time. So who's responsible for this corruption? With the lobby system and everything else. I think you need to go back, and even history has supported me when, information has come out about LBJ and Kennedy and FDR. How these people thought they were mini kings. We got Obama, who was a self-proclaimed pothead, and everybody, it's pretty public knowledge that that Clinton, falls into the pervert category. I mean, even back to the early progressives, that's where the system has started. So let's not, Raul, with your psychoactive problem against Trump, go back and study history a little bit more carefully. So, for example, who's pulling Biden's puppet string? The guy can't find his own pajamas. And I noticed that Raul is very good at repeating all of the Democrat, all of their strategy. He's got it down cold. He should be a speechwriter for somebody like Beto. Maybe he'd be doing better. But the point I'm making, Andrew, is that they're blaming Trump for everything, and we've got a dual legal system in this country that's just absolutely. I mean, the founders and all the people who fought for this country are twirling in their graves with what's happened with the FBI and the DOJ and all this other stuff. I don't know how it can be corrected, but it's not Trump's fault. Let's remember that Trump was a Democrat. He played the New York game to get his real estate fortune, and everybody thought he was a Democrat during those years. I mean, come on. The fact that he wanted to become president because he was patriotic, and by the way, Pelosi made the analogy that the word patriotic meant terrorist. You can find that on the video. I mean, all of these things are substantiated by, clear video evidence. Anyway, I'm digressing, Andrew. I thought your rebuttal of some of the things Raul said was very good. But again, Raul, come on, man, get help for that hate Trump thing.
Fair enough here. Well, thanks for the point in the call. Do appreciate it.
Bye.
You have a good one there. I mean, I will say that I do appreciate good analysis here, but I guess I haven't said this as much lately, so let me just drive home the point here. If you're coming up here with talking points and expecting them to just live on their own, you're going to have a bad time. Just plain and simple here. If you're coming with like analysis and your own thoughts and true emotions on things, good, getting there, getting better. But if you're just going to spout out what you've heard online or on air and not like even add your 2 cents to it, oh, it's not going to work out well for you. I'll say that right now. Let's go to Lisa Collmore, too, here before we get to that last segment here. We do have Jacob on the west side here with us right now. Jacob, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, I'm just calling in regards to I know there's no checkpoints in Texas, but I'm going to tell you how stupid El Paso PD is. They say we're getting better training. It doesn't look at one. Okay, I work security at night and a part-time on the graveyard. I was on my way to go do security at a motel in the east side, and I was driving around the central area, and I get pulled over. I have my uniform on, everything, my cap, my tie, and my shirt, and then the stupid PD, the pig, says, "Well, I'm sorry, I know that you are somebody's described this car as a suspicious car." I said, "I'm on my way to work, sir. I'd like to be there early, at least 10, 15 minutes." Okay, I'll just check your. I'd like to see your license, and it was good. And then a few months later, when I saw that pig in one of the schools, I told him, "Remember, you're the one that pulled me over, and I'm the security guard that you said that you had a call about a suspicious-looking car." I said, "What kind of officer are you, man? You know?" I thought he was racial profiling me because I'm Hispanic, you know. And nothing happened. I didn't get any tickets or anything. I just tell you how stupid they are. And I think some of these cops cover up for each other when they commit a crime. I know Greg Allen. I used to hang around with him when I went to UTEP. He used to be a karate instructor over there. He's a tough guy, you know. He's tough. He's got a black belt, you know. But I think it's time for him to retire. Have a good day, okay?
Yeah,
bye-bye.
Sure thing. Have a good one there. I'm just going to say this. I have not had nearly the amount of police interactions that some individuals have, even what you're describing there. I don't technically have a ticket on my record, but I mean, the whole defensive driving thing on that here. So I'll admit to that much anyway. But when you start coming out with, well, let's just say the attitude, when you start telling people, I don't care anyone, you know, epithets, including pigs, I'm not going to get anywhere near victim blaming here, but you tend to get back what you put out there. And for interaction that involves someone pulling you over and nothing coming of it, calling it profiling for any reason. Okay, let me just say, El Paso Police Department, in the interactions I've had with them, even if they were frustrating in their own right, tended to be pretty courteous and pretty focused on the community and what the response to it is here. I don't have any particular issues, but let's just say they can absolutely ask for your license and for your vehicle registration whenever they are stopping you here and to identify yourself. I've seen plenty of, there's plenty of videos of cops doing not correct things online here, but I've never had a particular issue with El Paso police. And yeah, if you're coming with hey pig, what's up? I don't see that working out well for you either here. So good luck with that here. So we got to take that next break right now. Coming out of this break, we'll squeeze in what we can on the line, tell you what we got coming up for you on the next show, and close it out. So stay tuned. More Talk El Paso after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back in a minute. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Gateway Boulevard, southbound at Sean Haggerty. A crash is blocking the right lane there, stay to the left. Gateway Boulevard, westbound at Eastlake. Earlier crash involving a couple of semis and other vehicles. Right lane is open there. Left lane still blocked. Pelicano at Joe Battle, an accident reported, and an injury accident eastbound North Loop Drive, just before the loop at Bordeaux Drive. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by The Truth with Lisa Booth podcast.
What does the political landscape look like heading into the midterm elections? We're going to ask Robert Kahali of the Trafalgar Group, who has a history of getting things right. Don't miss The Truth with Lisa Booth every Monday and Thursday and throughout the week on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
With so many real estate agents to choose from, how do you find the best one? Hi, it's Glenn Beck. One key is just looking for the investment that an agent is willing to make to get your home sold. Brian Birds with eXp Realty and his team have a marketing budget 25 times higher than the average agent's annual income. This means your home gets maximum exposure because it's marketed to the widest possible audience and gets you the highest possible sales price. Brian is so confident in his ability to sell your home fast and for more money that he's willing to put his own money on the line. If your home doesn't sell at the price and deadline you agree to, he'll buy it from you himself. You're not going to find another real estate agent in El Paso who is that invested in getting your home sold. He's the only one I'd call. Google Brian Birds. That's Brian, B-U-R-D-S. Read over 400 five-star reviews because I'm not the only one who knows you should call Brian Birds. Google Brian Birds or just check out brianbirds.com.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Now, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone, drive sober, or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
Ask Sherwin-Williams during the Endless Summer Sale, August 26th through September 5th, and get 30% off paints and stains with prices starting at $29.39. That means 30% off our most popular color family, blue. Psychologists have found it to be soothing and relaxing, which makes it especially great for bedrooms and bathrooms. And of course, 30% off all of our other colors. Shop the sale online or visit your neighborhood Sherwin-Williams store. Retail sales only. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
It can happen easily. A few drinks become a few too many. It's time to go, and you think of calling for a ride home. Now, what's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone, drive sober, or get pulled over. Paid for by NHTSA.
I'll never forget the call that my only son had been killed instantly by a distracted driver on her cell phone. Please hang up and drive.
Heads up, Texas. Using your phone behind the wheel can be deadly. Talk, text, crash. Brought to you by TxDOT.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for having joined us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of stuff we've covered today. We'll squeeze in probably at least one more call, see what we can do. And, of course, coming up for you on the show here, going to be talking more about some of those situations involving the local DA's office, working on some interviews for you all, and more specifically maybe talking with, so we can get them in here, on the actual petition that's been filed regarding the DA. More on that to come here, so stay tuned. And also more on UMC here, hopefully from them this week. They've confirmed so far, but we'll see what happens here as things have been very much in flux when it comes to talking about the actual, certificates of obligation bond, the potential more with it. So we'll delve into that a lot more. So let's squeeze in one more, I think, if we can here. We do have Frankie with us on the line here right now. Frankie, we got about a minute.
Okay, no problema. Let me tell you something. First off, I'm going to say, you cannot be serious. You conservatives out there have got yourself so tied up, you're beyond a Gordian knot. You can't even figure out what to say with this Donnie Dotard stealing United States national secrets and stuff. He needs to be prosecuted. I don't care. And then that Lindsey Graham guy going out there almost threatening, I tell you. There's going to be riots in the street if this nut job gets prosecuted. Hey, let it happen. Let it happen. You got to follow the law in the United States of America. That's the way it is. That's what I want to say about it. What do you think of that?
Well, I agree with you on the following the law part here, but let's also say that if things aren't handled very carefully with any law case, any legal proceeding here, the government throwing its weight around, if it does not have a full, complete justification of it, I mean, I wouldn't stand for it in my personal life as much power as I would have to be able to oppose that, which is pretty limited, but particularly involving, I mean, this is more than just your standard case involving really even secret documents here, given the circumstances that surround it and the potential provenance of them. But specifically, if this is not handled correctly, I mean, I would be hard-pressed to say that there would not be public repercussions if they are, again, just throwing it around. You got to admit that as much.
Yes, I do. And I'm telling you, the DOJ and everybody else out there is dead on. They are dotting the I's and crossing the T's. There'll be no question, no reservations whatsoever. I hear what you're saying about that because of the whole circumstance, the ex-president, blah, 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 versus the average American, hey, forget about it. So anyway, have a good evening.
Thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate you. Have a good one there, too.
All right.
That's going to do it for us here on the show today. I want to thank everyone who did tune in, call in, comment, participate in the show. We've got a lot more that we'll get to here, just touching on things, but more to come up for you tomorrow here as we are on air every Monday through Friday, 4 to 6 p.m. So I've been your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank everyone who did participate. In the meantime, stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road. Have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Gateway Boulevard, southbound at Sean Haggerty Drive, a crash there is blocking the right lane, stay to the left. An accident reported Pelicano Drive at Joe Battle Boulevard. Earlier accident this afternoon, Gateway Boulevard westbound at Eastlake, originally closing Gateway West, now has the right lane open, left lane still blocked from that earlier crash. And North Loop Drive eastbound before the loop at Bordeaux, injury accident there. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
The El Paso Community Foundation supports the causes you feel passionate about here in the borderland, whether it's education, social services, arts and culture, the environment, health, or economic development. The El Paso Community Foundation has been promoting philanthropy and progress in our hometown region for more than 45 years. Make your mark with us. Start a fund today for good, for El Paso, forever. Learn more at epcf.org. That's epcf.org.
Portions of the following program were pre-recorded.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom